and making me suffer emotionally and creating a psychological wound is because she was a perfect fit for the job, to remind me that this movement exists and the only way to live in the right way to you is to use intuition, and through a moral compass I can live a better, fulfilling, peaceful life, because it's not going to end anytime soon. That is the other thing. Now here's the other thing. When you are triggered emotionally at that moment, there is a possibility that you won't know that you are triggered. You will think that you are attracted to her, because that's the only thing that the brain can easily access at that moment. So if you reinforce that perception and you live on that consistently without following the data, now this is a confirmation that you will have to abandon the nature of the oneself and abandon the moral compass, and that is when you will suffer completely and become her, become part of that movement, become part of her. But if you accept that seeing her is attractive, it's how you are coping, you have to start questioning yourself. If I am coping, then where is my moral compass? Because this is not something you will learn instantly. It's a consistent experience, and then later on you will learn when you are alone, and then when that song hits in the right way, and then you are triggered emotionally, and then you cry again and again and again and again and again. You want to reach out, you try to write that message in the right way, you try you want to ask the right questions. It's not because you are in love and she abandoned you, it's because she left a psychological wound, because the brain doesn't want to fill the empty space. And in the process of asking questions, it's clinging on the past. Now it's creating a psychological wound because the questions don't have answers, and that psychological wound is through an emotional perception of what you thought was a reality when it was just an illusion, and that creates slavery. If it created slavery, then you have to accept that anytime you are around her, she will get triggered. When she gets triggered, she will copy in a certain way to influence you act in a certain way. When you will act in a certain way, it's when she will think she has power and control, because she lives on that illusion and that perception. But on your side, it's your job to accept that you are triggered either because of your perception of whom you think she is, and either she is using a facade that is too good to sell because she is the best fit for the job, to remind you that this glittering facade is the best fit for the job. And you need to always be aware, follow your intuition if your intuition doesn't work, because sometimes it will bypass. It will actually. Now when it bypasses, you will have to use logic. When you use logic and data, that is when you will realize that you are perceiving her as attractive. When you perceive her as attractive, this is a confirmation that you have handed over your power, but not fully, because you still have a moral compass and you still have pain. Pain and a moral compass is what you will use to bypass that. Pain is a confirmation that there is a message that you need to pay attention to. And it's also a confirmation that you are going against what you think is a reality, and you are living an illusion through a perception. Now, the question is, can you still be in a relationship with this person if they are creating a psychological wound? Because through perception is when they are creating a psychological wound. And that perception comes in because they are acting in a toxic way. But the brain doesn't know that they are acting in a toxic way. All it knows, she is attractive, but this is a movement and a conscience that she is influencing you in a way she knows she can, because she was the best fit for the job. So the question is, if she can do that, then any other person can do that. And you shouldn't blame her. You have to blame the fact that she was the perfect fit for the job, and it was a reminder that you have to stop abandoning your moral compass. Use logic, use intuition. If intuition doesn't work, use logic, use your moral compass, and always choose peace over anything else. No reaction. When you react, you confirm that she actually won, because on her side, she had power and control when she's just living in an illusion. Now, you are reinforcing that movement. But when you accept that it is my work to create peace, because peace serves the humankind's brain, then I have to go through this pain by first reinforcing the boundary and accept that this happened because she was the best fit for the job. And you are also the best fit for the job. But the question is, which movement is going to win depends on you. Are you going to do the right thing? Because the movement that will win, it will be a confirmation that you become one of the 1% that is reinforcing that movement that is unhealthy or healthy to the humankind's brain. So the movement that will win, by winning I mean you have to accept to go through pain and still do the right thing. Still walk away. Still end that relationship in a healthy way, without yelling, without shouting. Because yelling and shouting, it's still a confirmation that you are encouraging that movement. Okay? So, the movement that must win, it is a healthy movement. But it does not mean that it will end the unhealthy movement that is unhealthy to the humankind's brain. It doesn't end that consciousness, but it reinforces and pushes a healthy consciousness, and later on this healthy consciousness will bypass the unhealthy consciousness, but it can't entirely remove it. The good and the bad. The good has a benefit to the humankind's brain and to the human's existence, but the bad has to serve as a way for a human being to learn and have a way to maneuver through challenges. That is the bad. But if the bad becomes the leading, now it doesn't become part of a learning experience. It becomes part of an experience that has to be part of a human's existence. Yet it demolishes the healthy systems that needs to create space in the community, because that space is what creates what we call a peaceful environment that is healthy to every human being. Is it making any sense? Oh hell, I hope so. So the only way, and this will happen again and again and again, this will happen again and again and again and again, because one day when you're just alone, you will crash down, you will cry. Be prepared for that. That can only happen when you are alone, not when you are coping, not when you are with other people. Because here's the thing, when it just hits right, that song, that is when you will relive the past event in the best way possible. And everything now will come down crashing when you are alone. And at that moment, cry if you want to cry. When you reach out to her, that is when the movement is working on you. And you become one of the 1% that is reinforcing a movement that is supposed to be a learning experience. Now you are reinforcing and giving it power to be part of a massed existence for every other human being to live on, when it's supposed to be a consciousness that every other human being needs to experience for them to learn and maneuver through challenges. You tell me, yes, it's too much. When the pressure is too much, the question isn't to react and overreact. When the pressure is too much, you have to stop asking questions and find a way to maneuver around that challenge or that problem by first ending the psychological conflict, because a psychological conflict creates a psychological wound. By asking questions, you are trying to create a psychological conflict that creates a psychological wound. You become a slave to that. But when you end questions in a psychological world, you end that perception instantly. On an emotional world, when you get triggered emotionally, you feel the physical sensation, the tension in your body. At first you will cry. That is when you are triggered and the song hits right. You get triggered, the song hits right, maybe you will cry. That is the pathway. In fact, someone who cries when they are alone, that is a stoic man. If you can cry because it hits right and you don't or you can't call her, that is what we define as stoic man. And then later on, maybe feel the physical sensation, the tensions in the muscle, the anxieties. Because now you are reliving the past event that happened that was traumatic, but in the past you are coping. You are not facing it. And right now, you are facing it. And after coping, you ended up coping by meeting with multiple women, by dating again. You ended up coping by reaching out to your ex. You ended up coping by sleeping with another lady. But that does not remove that problem. It deepens it and it covers it up.